Today, here on the very first episode, our guest is Jevgenij, a young lawyer from Riga. The city was covered in snow that morning when me and him were sitting in his office in Brihuba. At some point, Jevgenij pulls out his phone and says, Justin Bieber has coronavirus. And I think, wow, Justin Bieber has coronavirus. And that was really it for me. I wasn't shocked at all. I didn't know anything about the virus back then, or coronavirus, or COVID-19, the Wuhan killer, the bat virus that came from a snake that had expired chicken for breakfast. But Jevgenij, always willing to give context, said a bit more about it. And still I can say I remember what he really added to it, and how he might have tried to make it all interesting for me. Bieber, one way or another, again, and not as it often happens in any random radio station. Wait a second, did I say radio station? Maybe I should say audio streaming providers, more like today. Bieber again had become part of our world whether we wanted it or not. And what's more mainstream than that? Using a virus for more publicity? Did he really need more publicity? None of that mattered that day that Jevgenij brought this up. What I do know now, though, is that that virus would have set the very circumstances in which I would have had to create my own podcast here in Latvia. And that is it. Enjoy the show. Oh, by the way, today is about Formula One. Right then, welcome everyone to this first episode of the Kūla podcast. Tonight we have a nice guest. We've been trying to have this conversation for a while, maybe a couple of days or a week, and finally we have with us Jevgenij. How are you? How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm very happy to be here. It's my dream that finally came true. I'm in podcast business. First time experience, so don't judge me. But I hope it goes well. How are you, Fabrizio?
I'm good. I'm glad you're here, and I'm very happy that we're doing the first one together, and it feels like a natural thing to happen in these days of I don't know. The numbers are going up again. We both, as the podcast is about people that live here in Latvia, we're both talking from Riga. We're not in the same flat or in the same house at the moment. Living in Riga at the moment, I feel that like last winter, maybe the numbers went up as well, if I remember correctly, around November. And now we're October, the numbers are going up again, particularly high, whatever reason that is. I don't want to speculate on that too much. Or we might want to, why not? And it feels like a natural thing to do, to have to listen to podcasts, right? Just natural.
Yeah, exactly. Like you try and explore new things, maybe calm yourself after a hard day at work, just listening to something new, listening to something to enjoy, to educate yourself in. And I hope today we will be able to provide this piece and small educational or something interesting for you to know. I hope it's going to be great.
You know, we don't have any script. We feel like maybe the only thing we just want to make it entertaining for us in the first place, and hopefully for anybody that listens to us. And but enough with the preliminaries. So how do you feel these days? Like, how was your day at work?
Like always, it's challenge every day, but that's what I like about my work. That you work hard and then you get to rest hard, so to say.
To play hard.
To spend the weekend relaxing and so on and so forth. So it's almost end of the work week. So I'm looking forward to 2 day holidays that we're gonna have, and then restore myself, listen to some podcasts. Hopefully this one.
And so many interesting people that do different things in this country that is unique. And I was thinking also, like, how do we connect, Yevgeny, the fact that again we got back to this, the restrictions are going up. Our life seems to be, we seem to have a deja vu of last end of October, November, when the numbers were going up, and the only difference is that now we've been through last autumn and December. Oh, sorry, autumn and winter already. So maybe we have an advantage. Do we have an advantage? Do you feel like you have an advantage towards a possible lockdown this winter?
It's a good question. I think from a personal perspective, I think yes, I have an advantage. I know what to expect, at least now. What to do, how to do basic things like shopping, like talking to my friends, and so on and so forth. Obviously, the fact that the vaccine is out there also helps a lot. It makes me feel personally safer. So maybe if I ever get COVID, maybe I'll survive. At least this fact calms me down a little bit. And also, compared to last year, if we talk globally, I think a lot of entertainment has adjusted. There are a lot of things that were stopped last year, but are able to continue this year. Such as different sporting events. For example, NHL is back. That's ice hockey competition in United States. If anyone doesn't know, Formula One is there. All my favorite sports are there. So at least I have something to rest my mind on. Mm-hmm. If eventually I will get back home and will be forced to stay here. What about you?
Well,
how do you feel?
Well, that's a good question. I haven't got my mind around it, but I think that the advantage with me, because I'm not really into sports, but the advantage with me is the fact that at least I've been through it already. So October, like last winter, or summer was somehow we took a break from that idea of having COVID. But the advantage is in the fact that I've been through it. So that kind of partially makes me feel a bit more accustomed to it, and being accustomed to it makes me forget about the danger. Doesn't mean that the danger is not there, but somehow the fact that I'm still alive, or the fact that I might have had COVID, or the fact that I've been through that initial situation, now I don't get to entertain the thought of COVID as often as last year. Somehow you have the option of enjoying more sports this year than last year. So you got more options now added to the entertainment of a possible lockdown, of a world that might look a bit, Riga that might look a bit duller, possibly a bit grimmer, or things like that. So it's a good thing, right? And Formula One is one of these.
Yes, but you're correct. Last year was, let's say, a very uneventful time. There were only numbers coming up that the people are getting sick. Situation is getting worse. No one knows when it's gonna stop, and so on and so forth. So you were always in the middle of this informational field where nothing really is going on, and there is nothing to be waiting for, to to be preparing for, and so on and so forth. So the fact that at least sports are back, I think it's a great thing, and especially Formula One, because I think Formula One is one of the most exciting sports out there, and being involved in it and getting to know the sport and to learn the sport, it's a great thing, because it gives you so much substance. It gives you all the different levels that this sport is on. It's yeah, if I'll start to describe it, it's
my relationship with Formula One, probably 7 years old, 8 years old, the early 90s. He was at the time probably the big competition. I don't know, big competition with McLaren and Ferrari on TV. We had the polished steel racing track with me and my brother, and there was this thing. Mostly the basis of our enjoyment to work with overtaking, but we wouldn't necessarily have the patience to stand in front of TV and wait for that. So my approach is really marginal. But before we get to, because now we have so much on the plate. We have a Netflix series that is out there to get people close to it, to explain those different layers of the understanding of the sport. But before we get into that, and in Jevgenij's approach of Formula One, what could be, Yevgeny, what could be a, I don't know, like, how can we present the sport? Big in the 50s, born in the 50s, and then got bigger and bigger. What kind of sport is it? What are we talking about?
Well, Formula One actually was born not in 50s. It was born even earlier, I think. It was born in, let me check, because I don't know these facts straight out of my head, unfortunately. I'm not that much into history, so to say.
It doesn't matter when, but it's
no, you're correct. It's 1950. So yeah, you're correct. It was born in 50s. I thought it was born earlier, though.
I remember the design of the very early cars. Remember, they had this single body with a big calendar, like the big in front of it. And I thought, well, then I don't know. I just got the information from Google, but so we have more than half a century.
Yes,
of this tradition. Before we get to the point, what is Formula One for you? Is a racing competition, I would say.
Yes, it's a racing competition between manufacturers and drivers. So there are different teams who are supplied by different manufacturers. Throughout the history, there were a number of them. Ferrari was one of the manufacturers who I think this Ferrari team is the only team that hasn't skipped any championship from 1950s. This is the only team, but throughout history there were different ones. BMW, Mercedes, all kinds of most popular car manufacturers. Renault. So their task is within the allowed regulation to build the car, and then try and win as much points as possible. Also, obviously, drivers are included, where drivers compete also with each other. So each team, for example, has two drivers, and two teams teams between themselves are competing, and drivers between themselves are competing as well. So for each track is a separate event. So, and for winning at this event, let's say each track, there is a track day, track weekend. Let's put it even better. Track weekend includes 3 days. So it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Friday, there is two practice sessions where drivers, they arrive at the track with their teams and so on and so forth, and they try and adjust their car to the track itself. So they test the tires, they test their brakes, they test their car adjustments and so on and so forth, so that they would be fully prepared for the next upcoming 2 days. So on Saturday, there is an event called qualifying. Usually, let's take this year's competition. Usually, there are 20 cars involved, and qualifying is split into 3 sessions. So the task of the qualifying is to determine who starts from which position on Sunday. So there are 3, like I said, there are 3 stages of qualifying. So during the first qualifying session, all 20 cars are involved. There are 15-minute time limit, and each car can go around the track as many times as it likes. However, the best time that it shows is recorded during this first qualifying session.
And they got 15 minutes.
Yeah, during the 15 minutes, the cars can go out, they can go around the track and show their fastest time. However, out of 20 cars, only 15 cars are allowed into the second stage of qualifying. And it goes further. So those 15 cars, they compete for the fastest lap out there. And the 10 cars that are left
get to
the final stage to go around again and try and secure the pole position, which means the first starting place on the racing grid.
Super clear. Okay.
I hope it was super clear. There are
a few
nuances that I may have dropped, but for basic understanding of how qualifying works, this is it. And then, one of the things that I forgot to mention is that so if during the first qualifying you qualified 15, then you start 15, obviously. If during the second qualifying you qualified 11, then you're out and you cannot go to the final stage of qualifying, and then you start 11th. But for example, if you qualified first during the first session, first during the second session, and then if you qualified 9th during the third session, the last one, then you start 9th, because this is the last session for you, basically, to score your points and to set up your grid.
Clear. And so already talking to somebody that knew the sport only marginally, already we're talking about, there's not just the main race that we're watching. We're watching what happens on Friday. We're watching the qualification that happened on Saturday, which are quite fun. The qualification are fun, I would say, by the way you described it. And as if this is not over, after you have a lot of fun already on Saturday, what happens next? After the qualifications?
The race itself, it happens on Sunday. That's the best that there could be.
So wait a second. Sorry, man. If anybody's got a partner, And so, well, okay, no, just give me, before we get to the race, and it's already extremely exciting to somebody that is not into it like you. The way that you described it is already exciting. But give me, before we get to the race itself, I don't know how to call what happens on Friday. Maybe rehearsing. I don't know how to call it. Maybe the first to test it. We're testing the track. That's what you said. We're testing the track on Friday to see how they are. The technicians or the mechanics have to behave with the car and everything. And there is weather. There are predictions. Everything. How many hours am I taking away from Yevgeny?
Well, to be honest, no one watches what happens on Friday. They just go around the track. It's a little bit boring. Like different drivers, they may test different settings at any given moment. But qualifying usually takes 1 hour.
Oh, that's okay. You can still have a relationship.
Like I did. I just explained everything to my girlfriend, and now she is watching everything with me, favorite driver, and so on and so forth. So even her favorite team. So
there are people probably that have lost their partner because of what's next? We go to bed, we wake up the next day, we got the Grand Prix.
Yeah, exactly. So usually I call my friends. We have our special place, me and my friends. We have even our group chat called F1. Shout out to my boys. You know who you are. That's one of the most wonderful things about F1. That just a small step back. Back in the day when internet was not available to everyone, you got all the news from the newspapers or you watched the race and that's it. But now with internet and everything, you can get access to information real quick, and you can live in those small communities and discuss all the news, all the events, what is happening behind the doors, information about drivers, about tracks, this and that, teams themselves. So that is what excites me about the sport. But coming back to our ritual, we all know that there is an upcoming race. We all ask each other who is joining, who is not. Then we arrive like an hour before the race. We decide on what are we ordering. It could be pizza, it could be something else.
Well, wait a second. Where? What is this happening? Where? Which place?
I'm not gonna reveal all the details.
Okay.
I'm not gonna.
Because there is a special club with the cigars and whiskeys in Central Riga, and
there is a club. It's actually called Club, but it's a special place which is rented out, where we have our sofas, where we have our big screen, and so on and so forth. We have a sound system, so there is everything you need to properly enjoy the race.
Amazing.
Obviously, we try to bet on who is good, not just like friendly bets on who is going to win. We discuss the latest news and so on and so forth. So we prepare ourselves. And
money?
No. Actually, we also involved in card collecting with Formula One, but that's completely different story. We exchanged some news. We may try to guess which cards are going to be issued this race. So a lot of fun. I may sound like a nerd, but trust me, it's very interesting.
No, actually, I mean, everybody should. It's not about that. I mean, every time that you see somebody that's enthusiastic about something, you actually should envy him. You support a specific driver and a specific.
Well, I do have my favorite team.
Yeah, and what is that? You're not going to tell us that either.
Okay. It's Scuderia Ferrari.
Scuderia Ferrari. Can it happen that somebody has a favorite team, but he's got a favorite pilot with a different team? Do you see that happening often?
That's the other cool thing about the sport, is that this is sport not only a team sport, but it's also a sport of personalities. That's why I do love Scuderia Ferrari. This is the team that I pick, and I will root for them. till the day I die. I will support any pilot that is within this team. But like I said, this is a sport of personalities. And I do like some other drivers from other teams. If they win, I'm happy as well because he's a nice person. You know, I like him. I like his driving. I like him, yeah, the way he acts and so on and so forth. But I also have drivers that I don't like that much. Team is a team.
Like you get a bad soccer or like a football player with not a good conduct that plays for a team that you like, you feel a bit, this is not nice. I understand.
Yeah.
I presume the adrenaline is there.
Oh, you don't even know. Like one of the last thing that I would like to say about the preparation for a race. TV rights. I mean, most of the TV rights of Formula One are exclusively owned by. Oh my God, I forgot the company name. Sky Sports. Yes, Sky. And Sky is doing an amazing job. It's the best sports event coverage that I have ever seen in my life. The way they approach it, all the graphics, all the explanation, and they have this awesome tradition every time, like a 40 minutes before the race start, they go through the grid. Grid, it's the place where they're bringing cars before the start, and there are mechanics around the cars.
Girls.
There are celebrities walking. You can see the anticipation building, the engines roaring, and people rushing here and there trying to make the last preparation, and it's slowly building and building and building and building, and then the grid is empty. They go for a forming lap. Then me and my boys, we get up and wait for those magic words, and the lights are out, and here we go. And we all standing out screaming because a lot of unexpected things might happen at any second. It's crazy, and it's amazing. This is something. Yeah, you should try and experience.
Oh, you described it in a way that somehow it clicked, in a sense that I had some fragments in my memories of those few Grand Prix that I watched. And when you described that moment, when you said building up the anticipation and everything before the race starts, I felt the sound of the engine, the engine, which is fascinating and tragic at the same time. What is a more informed spectator looking for in that moment?
Well, we have to. This is a very complicated question.
Yes,
it doesn't look like it, but it really is, because it really depends on the track itself. It really depends. For example, it really depends on the start, how the cars actually started. Someone didn't do their job properly, for example, and their tires are cold, so the car is getting from its starting grid really slow or spinning its wheels. Someone has overslept and didn't step on the gas on the right time. So the race start is one of the most important aspects of the race, especially like you said, they're all racing together, but they're all bunched up and they trying to find the space in order to make an overtake, and everyone are like moving around the track at crazy speeds, diving into first corner or the second corner depending on the track. And then accidents might happen. It may be a safety car, so all the cars must slow down and follow the special car with a bunch of sirens on it. A lot of things can happen. Even the race can be stopped. This actually happened in the United Kingdom this year when on the second lap, two leading cars crashed unexpectedly, and that was that. So very, very, very unpredictable sport, unpredictable start. After, let's say, 5 or 7 or 10 laps, race gets settled a little bit.
There you go.
And then you can start looking at overtakes, because some of the cars are still very much together. There is also a special technology available for a car that is following another car within 1 second. So if you are a driver in front, you are driving, let's say, Alfa Romeo, and now I'm driving my Ferrari behind you. There are special zones called DRS zones, so it's drag reduction system.
Mm-hmm.
And if I follow your car in this zone within 1 second,
Mm-hmm.
I have possibility to use this special technology called drag reduction system, where my spoiler would, my back wing would open and reduce my wind. How would I say? My wind.
Like absorption of wind. So you tell me in simpler terms, what happened when you get into this area of distance of 1 second between two cars? What happens? Your car slows down? I didn't get it.
Okay, so let me start from the back, and in order to maybe provide you with more information. So if I can go? Yes, sorry.
Really, I'm listening.
All right. If one car is following the other car,
yes,
the car in front breaks. It breaks an air pocket in front of it. So the car has to cut through the air. There you go. Yeah. So the car in front, it cuts through the air. So there is a lot of air tension involved. Mm-hmm. And the car that is following the car in front, it doesn't have to cut through the air because the car in front does it for it. In order to take this thing even further and reduce this air cutting even more, there is a special system called drag reduction system that allows car that follows behind the car that is in front and cutting all this air to open its back wing, which will reduce the air tension even lower. This will allow this car that's following behind to increase the speed and overtake.
It's crazy.
Does it make sense?
Tell you how I understand it, and you tell me if it makes sense.
Okay.
So there is an option in the nowadays racing.
Yes.
Where actually a car that is positioning itself in a 1 second away distance from the car in front of it, the moment that it gets in that area, somehow the car behind gets an advantage on the car in front of it.
Exactly. This system promotes more overtakes. So, for example, if there is a straight, but it's too short, so and cars are going too fast, when you follow a car, you try to overtake, and you just don't have enough speed or enough momentum to make an overtake. So what the creators of the system made a certain areas on a racing track where you can use this system in order to overtake a car in front of you, because they're just too powerful, like I explained. Sometimes you try to overtake on the straight, but it doesn't work because different engines, different this and that. So
we are describing the race by actually very well by explaining what are the things that cars can do by regulation and everything. I wanted to ask you, somehow the regulations and the new technologies are trying to promote overtakes somehow. But at the same time, the size of the cars has increased from the 90s up to now, from the 80s up to now. Now we got bigger cars, right?
Yes.
So on one side, they're trying to promote overtakes. The size of the racing track is pretty much the same of the one that it was there 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I presume, right? Correct? We could agree that Monza was the same in the 90s and is the same now. I believe that there is danger involved in this. There is a lot of danger because of the size of the cars.
Yes, because of the size of the cars, because of the speeds that they are going, because of different regulations on tires, and because of technology itself, because of the close battles that are there. There are a lot of dangers, and unfortunately, there were a couple of deaths that occurred in the last decade in smaller, in let's say junior league. I think in Formula 2, a couple of years ago, there was a young driver that sadly died in Belgium and Spa. There is also a story of Jules Bianchi, who unfortunately also crashed and died in Suzuka. But Formula One is taking necessary steps to ensure that there is safety in racing. A great example would be last year crash of Roman Grosjean, where he was saved by special halo system that was implemented after Jules Bianchi's death. It's basically this ugly, let's say, ugly thing that is on top of the racing car. If you look at the modern pictures of drivers, racing cars, you would see this weird looking thing just in front of the driver, and you think it's going to hurt his vision or ability to race properly. But it really saves lives. Like I said, last year there was a huge crash involving Roman Grosjean, where he lost control over his car and crashed into a barrier, and his car was split in half, and he only survived because of this halo system that was on top of his car right in front of him, because it basically cut through this barrier, saving his life.
There is improvement that is made on the skin of dead pilots. I kind of hijacked what you were saying earlier, like you were describing the race, and I took your attention to the size of the cars. But before we get into the danger, you were saying we're talking about a very interesting technology that is enhancing overtakes, right?
Yes.
And what else do we have that is part of the competition that is quite interesting?
There is also tire strategies involved. One of the most, I think this is one of the most important things. And one of the things that I forgot to mention is that during the second qualifying, the one that involves 15 cars, if you are successful and you are in top 10 and moving forward into the third round, the tire that you've set your best time in second qualifying, this is the tire you have to start your race on. So this is very strategical. For example, if you believe fully in your car, you believe that on before I go any further, there are types of tires involved.
There is so much to say, is there? Go ahead.
There are 3 types of tires. So it's soft tire, medium tire, and hard tire. They all colored differently, meaning on the side of them you can see different colors. So soft tire is a red tire, yellow one is a medium tire, and hard tire is white tire. So usually the fastest time is set on a red tire, so on the softest tire, because it is brought up to the temperature to optimal temperature really fast. So your car would be able to go faster, but for a shorter period of time.
See,
the medium tire is kind of in between. It takes some time for it to heat up, but it's also, let's say, lasting a little bit longer. And the hard tire is the white one, the slowest tire out there. So if you put on the hardest tire, then it's the longest tire, but no one qualifies on this tire, because your goal is to set the fastest lap possible in order to start over your competition. Nevertheless, if during the second qualifying you believe that your car is powerful enough to get yourself into the third part of the qualifying, some teams might go for the medium tire, so for a yellow tire, in order to start the race on this yellow tire, stay out longer, and maybe come up with different strategies and see how the rest of the field is doing, and so on and so forth. Because it's very important to understand when you make a pit stop. Because you can make a pit stop, but all the other guys from the back of the grid, they have nothing to lose, so they just put on the hardest tire possible and go for the longest time possible. Pit stop is when you call your team, or a team calls you and asks you to go to a box to change tires, or if there is damage to your car, some parts can be replaced at the box at the pit stop. And this is, if you saw some videos, this is when the pit crew are changing tires real quick.
Really fast, yes.
I think the fastest pit stop is 1.8 seconds. So can you imagine all four wheels are changed in 1.8 seconds on the car? So it's basically, you blink and then the car is gone. Exactly. It's pressure on the team, and there are different strategies where the 2 cars can go from different teams. They can go at the same time. So they're racing each other as well at the pit stop. For example, one car takes 1.8 seconds to change all the tires. The other one takes 2.5. And even this little amount of time could be a game changer. Or the teams can double stack, which means that one car goes in, the other one follows, and then they do a quick pit stop for both of cars, and then just leave them both be and race on the same lap. But it's very dangerous.
The team has got a micro competition happening with the pit stop, changing of the tires, and every second is crucial. And being every second crucial, I imagine them rehearsing.
You have to be surgical. But you call it a small competition. Actually, it's one of the most important competitions. When to call your driver in, like I said, because there is weather involved, there is traffic on the track involved. Like I said, your tires might be gone and you need to go to the pits. But if you go now, there is danger that you will be stuck in traffic of slow cars that are following each other. And because of the specifics of the track or something else, you might not be able to overtake them. So you will lose time. So for some, in some occasions, it's better to stay out longer and, on your destroyed tires in order to maintain your track position. Sometimes you only went to the pits, you put on new tires, right, in order to overtake those slow guys that are slowing you down. And then there is crash happening, everyone are going back into the pits, races stop, then all the guys that were in front of you are able to change their tires, and then your race is basically destroyed. Anything can happen. This is an unexpected sport. So
it's crazy that there is so much to it apart from overtakes is fun, but there is so much more, is there? Is there another feature of the sport that makes it extremely tense?
Well, one of the most important things as well is that you have a limited amount of changes that you can apply to your car, technology-wise, or let's say engine-wise. I think it would be way easier to explain. So throughout the season, you can change your engine only 5 times. So when you exceed this number, you get a penalty. So even if you qualify, let's say first, you usually can get 10 place grid penalty, or even 20. So this could be used tactically as well. For example, there is a rainy day. Like, I don't know if I can spoil the current season if people are going to watch it, but anyway, there was a rainy race, I think, in Russia. Was it Russia? I don't even know anymore. Was it Russia? Yes, it was Russia. Yes, it was raining in Russia, and one pilot recognized it and saw that this race wouldn't be as speedy as it seems. So he decided to gamble, change his engine completely, received 20 place grid penalty. So he started from the back because he exceeded the 5 allowed by regulation changes of his engine. So there are parts to engine that can be replaced only 5 times.
I see. So as a penalty, they got him at the bottom of the line. I get it. All right.
Exactly. So if you exceed this number of 5 changes throughout the season, you are penalized. Like I said, you can get 10 place grid penalty or 20 places grid penalty.
But he knew it. It was a strategy, was it?
Exactly. Everything involves strategy and mind games and so on and so forth. In Formula One, there is Rosbergs. There was Keke Rosberg and Nico Rosberg, who both raced, and I think they both are Formula One champions. Nico Rosberg for sure. I'm not sure about Keke Rosberg. So there is also Michael Schumacher, his brother Ralf Schumacher, and his son Mick Schumacher debuted this season in Formula One. It's his first season. He's driving for, let's say, not very fast team, but he's practicing. I think, he is going to be a great driver at some point.
I see. Okay, so we have plenty of reasons to try and watch. Try to cover the distance between a totally marginal appreciation of the sport.
Yeah, well, you're going to enjoy the design of the car for the last year, because next season, there's going to be a huge change in the car design, which has been coming for years, and it was delayed because of different reasons, COVID as well. But they finally made a decision that this year is going to be the last year of the current versions of the cars, and moving from the next season, it's going to be a completely new thing.
I have a friend in Italy that is similarly to you, knows all the different layers. That's Enrico, by the way. Hi, from Cento.
Hello.
And there's Enrico. This is Jevgenij, and you both fan of the same team. So that's good. Maybe we should get you to talk to each other one day. But the thing is, I wanted to close the conversation. I know we need to talk about danger, the danger factor in Formula One, which is fascinating on one side and extremely tragic on the other side. And Enrico has talked to me on many occasions about this Netflix series that has been getting people like me closer to the sport. Is an ambulance talking about danger. Is building a bridge between marginal understanding of the sport and something a bit more entertaining and more complete.
Well, I think, like you said, Netflix TV series is helping to grow the sport and bring regular viewers, such as maybe yourself, or as my girlfriend, closer to the sport, and explain a little bit more on how it works, what are the stakes, because the TV series themselves are called Drive to Survive, which is one of the another topics of this sport, that nothing is there for granted. You have to prove your worth to the team, to yourself. There are personal goals involved that every driver wants to achieve. And this TV series, in my humble opinion, does it really well. It shows personalities of the drivers, which makes the sport more attractive, let's say, from the human side of it. And it goes into another layers of the sport that may be interesting to different types of personalities and people who are watching this. So they're trying to build this, let's say, Formula One universe that would be appealing to everyone, despite of their age, race, sex, so on and so forth. So for me, as a fan, it's really astonishing to see how this world of Formula One is slowly growing and slowly trying to take over the minds and hearts of people who are not involved yet.
Documentaries and the series, compared to the past ones, they've done so much, they improved so much in the recent years. So somehow it feels that they adding to something that is already multi-layered, that is complicated to understand and fun. They have the way to make a documentary nowadays that it has the features of fiction, but by using non-fiction. They can present a character like probably Hamilton in a way that it really is, but they can do it with all the tools of modern documentaries that make everything so much more exciting. I mean, this documentary, which I have partially watched, I want to continue, is bringing so much more to something that is already quite exciting. And if you already think about that documentary that I suggested to watch, like Senna, which is at the moment, I think is already like probably 12 years old or something like that. I don't remember, but that documentary already kind of put together facts, but somehow they were told and they were shot and they had such the right music and the right cameras that made whatever Senna was already in real life, like a legend or an amazing pilot. The documentary made it so much fun in that sense. On one side, you're excited about the adrenaline that danger produces, but on the other side, you feel kind of upset at the same time. No, how do you feel?
It's very interesting and very tough question, because I am holding my breath all the time when there is a start of the race, or when close racing is involved. I'm getting up, I'm sweating, I'm, like I said, holding my breath, because it never stops to amaze me how dangerous this is, what high stakes are involved there, because there could be one mistake and you in a best case scenario you'll just end up in a crashed car, but in the worst case scenario there could be a huge crash with multiple cars involved, and it could lead to God knows what, and how everything is calculated when these people race, how much trust they have in themselves, in cars that they are driving, as well as into the people who they drive their cars around, especially in the situations that they're in.
The same ingredient that generates excitement, which is danger, on the other side, almost like a boxer, even more dangerous than boxing, I presume, in one race. You kind of get close to the person. You become a fan, right? You become a fan of his attitude. You become a fan of his conduct and whatever. And the same ingredient that is making you like watch the screen very closely is the same that it might kill the person that you support.
Like you said, from on one hand, these are professional drivers who know the risks and who are trained to do this, who are specifically, let's say, taking their approach to reach this high level. They all understand what they are doing. Like I said, during the race, they have a lot of trust in themselves, in their car, and in driver around them. There is an increasing level of safety that is involved with the halo system that proved itself. Of course, there is a little concern about what could happen to the driver, but it's always unexpected, and you cannot be expecting the unexpected throughout the race all the time.
You don't start worrying about that until it happens. I understand.
Like I said, during the race, obviously when there is close racing, obviously you get up, you get excited, you stand up, and you pray that nothing goes wrong and your driver safely overtakes the other one, and we're all screaming and watching with our hands up. But you do have to remember there is practice on Friday. when they practice all the time.
I read somewhere that they can stop from 100 kilometers per hour, I think.
Yeah, they can reach 100 kilometers per hour and then stop just in 4 seconds.
Just both of those things.
Yeah.
We were watching a video of a Concorde. Do you remember the supersonic project or whatever? There's a moment where the Concorde takes off. At some point when it breaks the speed of sound, it just makes this explosion.
Boom. Yeah.
Like this thunder or whatever, and then it feels like almost disappears. And that's the reason why they were not very appreciated, because of the sound pollution, one of the reasons, whatever. So Formula One cars, they're not breaking the speed of sound, clearly, but the idea of a car reaching 100 and pulling and just pulling the brakes all in 4 seconds is unimaginable unless you see it.
That's why you have to watch it. That's why it's called King of the Motorsport.
It's been nice to have you, and we have to get back and talk more about it. And
sure.
can we possibly leave everyone by saying what's the next challenge? When's the next Grand Prix? And is there something happening soon? Or
Yes, there is a Grand Prix happening very soon. I think. Let me check my calendar. I have everything written down. It's supposed to be the week after this one.
What is that?
So it's going to be United States Grand Prix on October 24th. Next year, they're going to introduce another track in the United States. It's going to be Miami Grand Prix. It's going to be a city circuit where they're going to go through the streets of Miami. Very exciting for the first time ever, at least.
I'm going to get more information, I promise. In the next Kūla podcast on Formula One, we're going to prepare that.
Sounds like a plan.
I promise. Thank you for coming. I'll say goodbye to everyone from Riga. This is the first episode, and I was very happy to have you. Thank you very much.
Well, Fabrizio, it was a pleasure to be here. It was very nice, like it always is when I talk to you. Thank you for the opportunity to be here, to be the first one. Hope to see you soon. Hope to watch a race with you together.
Yeah.
And shout out to my boys from Formula One group. Shout out to my girlfriend. And thank you out. Jay is out. Peace.
Ciao, Jevgenij. Thank you very much, buddy.